What if I told you about a Second World War mission so daring, so audacious, it's been called the greatest raid of all? A mission where an old, outdated destroyer packed with explosives was sent to take on one of Nazi Germany's most strategic strongholds. A raid that would pit a small group of commandos against overwhelming odds in a desperate bid to change the course of the war. Welcome to the Militia Historia podcast. I'm your host, Brent, and today we're diving into the incredible story of the Saint-Nazaire raid, also known as Operation Chariot. It's a tale of ingenuity, sacrifice, and unyielding determination, where bravery faced off against impossibility. So buckle up, because this is history at its most thrilling. The year is 1942. Europe is embroiled in the chaos of World War II. Britain stands as a bastion of resistance against Nazi Germany, whose forces dominate the continent. Across the English Channel, German forces fortify their hold on occupied France, including the strategically vital port of Saint-Nazaire on the Loire River estuary. This port isn't just any harbour, it's home to the Normandy Dock, the largest of its kind on the Atlantic coast. Originally designed to service the luxury liner SS Normandy, the dry dock could now accommodate massive warships, including Germany's fearsome battleships like the Tirpitz. For Britain, the Normandy Dock represented a glaring vulnerability. If the German Navy's largest vessels were damaged, Saint-Nazaire was the only location on the Atlantic where they could be repaired. Denying the Nazis access to this dock would force their ships to retreat to ports in home waters, where they'd face greater risks from Allied forces. The strategic implications were clear. The dock had to be destroyed. But how? Bombing was ruled out. The Royal Air Force lacked the precision to hit the target without causing catastrophic civilian casualties. A covert mission by the Special Operations Executive was also deemed impractical. The explosives required were too heavy for secret agents to transport. The task would fall to Combined Operations, a unit known for its unorthodox raids. The plan they devised was audacious. An aging destroyer, HMS Campbeltown, would be loaded with explosives and rammed into the dock gates. To ensure the dock's complete destruction, a team of Commandos would land alongside the ship, targeting key infrastructure such as pumping stations and power facilities. The small, hand-picked force would have to overcome heavy defences, complete their demolition tasks, and escape, all under the cover of darkness. The scale of the mission required meticulous planning. HMS Campbeltown underwent extensive modifications. Her silhouette was altered to resemble a German destroyer, a ruse to delay enemy recognition. Internally, the ship was stripped of non-essential equipment to reduce her draft, allowing her to navigate the Loire River's shallow waters. Her bow was packed with over 4 tons of high explosives, encased in concrete, ensuring maximum damage to the dock gates upon impact. The Commandos chosen for the raid were equally prepared. Drawn from No. 2 Commando and other elite units, these men trained intensively for weeks, rehearsing every detail of the operation. They knew the risks. Success depended on precise timing, effective teamwork, and a significant measure of luck. By late March 1942, the stage was set. The raiding force, comprising HMS Campbeltown, a flotilla of small craft, and 611 men, was ready to depart from Falmouth, Cornwall. Their objective: render the Normandy Dock inoperable and deliver a crippling blow to German naval capabilities. The calm before the storm was over. The operation's success or failure would soon be decided. We'll take a short break here and be back with you in a tick. On March 26, 1942, the raiding force set sail from Falmouth, Cornwall. The convoy, consisting of HMS Campbeltown and 18 smaller craft, navigated treacherous waters en route to the French coast. They travelled under the cover of night, with strict radio silence and dimmed lights to avoid detection. The men aboard knew this was no ordinary mission. For many, it was likely a one-way trip. As the convoy approached the Loire estuary, tension grew. On March 27th, 2 French fishing trawlers appeared on the horizon. Concerned they might alert German forces, the British sank both vessels. This grim decision underscored the high stakes of the mission. Secrecy was paramount. By the early hours of March 28th, the convoy neared Saint-Nazaire. At 1:22 a.m., German searchlights pierced the darkness, illuminating the flotilla. The element of surprise was gone. German gunners stationed along the estuary's banks demanded identification. In a daring ruse, the British raised the German naval ensign and sent coded signals obtained during a previous raid. The deception bought precious moments, but could not hold indefinitely. The Germans opened fire, turning the estuary into a cauldron of chaos. HMS Campbeltown, her hull reinforced and her crew steeled for battle, surged ahead under relentless attack. Shells struck her sides, killing and wounding men on deck, yet the ship pressed on. At 1:34 a.m., Campbeltown slammed into the dock gates with tremendous force. Her bow lodged firmly in place. She had fulfilled the first part of her mission. While Campbeltown's crew secured the ship, the Commandos began their assault. Disembarking under heavy fire, they split into groups to tackle their objectives. One team targeted the pump houses and water systems essential to the dock's operation. Another aimed to destroy gun emplacements and searchlights, reducing the threat to the remaining raiders. Despite the chaos, the Commandos moved with precision and determination, their training evident in every step. The smaller craft transporting additional Commandos faced devastating losses. German gunners targeted the unarmoured wooden boats, sinking many before they could land. Of the 18 small craft that began the raid, most were destroyed or disabled. Survivors who reached shore found themselves vastly outnumbered and under intense fire. Still, they pressed on, planting demolition charges and engaging enemy forces wherever they encountered resistance. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Newman, leading the raid, rallied his men amid the carnage. Newman directed mortar fire onto a heavily fortified gun emplacement, silencing it long enough for his teams to advance. His leadership and resolve became a beacon for the Commandos, who fought with remarkable courage despite overwhelming odds. By dawn, the situation was grim. Many of the small craft had been destroyed, leaving no clear path for evacuation. The surviving Commandos, now scattered across the port, faced a daunting reality. They were trapped deep in enemy territory with limited ammunition and dwindling hope. As dawn broke over Saint-Nazaire, the reality of the raid's cost became clear. Of the 611 men who had embarked on this daring mission, a significant number were either killed or captured. For those left behind, the situation was dire. Cut off from their flotilla and surrounded by German forces, the Commandos faced an uncertain fate. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Newman, realizing evacuation by sea was no longer possible, gathered his surviving men and issued 3 simple orders. Fight their way out, surrender only if all ammunition was exhausted, and if possible, avoid capture entirely. Despite the grim circumstances, Newman's leadership kept morale intact as the scattered groups of Commandos attempted to evade the pursuing German forces. The terrain around Saint-Nazaire was unforgiving. Narrow streets, fortified buildings, and dense urban landscapes offered little opportunity for escape. Many Commandos sought refuge in abandoned structures or tried to slip through enemy patrols under the cover of darkness, but the odds were against them. German reinforcements, alerted by the previous night's chaos, combed the area relentlessly. One group of Commandos managed to hold out for hours in a makeshift defensive position, using their dwindling supply of ammunition to keep the enemy at bay. Another team, led by Captain Bob Montgomery, attempted to break through the German lines, but was overwhelmed after a fierce firefight. Stories of individual bravery emerged from these final moments, as men fought not for survival alone, but to complete their mission to the best of their ability. For some, escape seemed within reach. A handful of Commandos succeeded in slipping through the German perimeter, making their way into the French countryside. With the help of local resistance members, 5 men eventually reached neutral Spain and from there returned to Britain. Their harrowing journey became a testament to the resilience and determination of the raiders. Yet for the majority, capture was inevitable. Exhausted and out of ammunition, many were forced to surrender. They were taken as prisoners of war and transported to various camps in Germany. Time for another quick break. Back soon. While their mission had inflicted a devastating blow to the enemy, the cost in lives and freedom was profound. As the day progressed, the Germans surveyed the damage. The wreckage of HMS Campbeltown remained lodged in the dock gates, a silent testament to the bravery of those who had carried out the raid. Unbeknownst to them, the true climax was still to come. As the hours passed, German personnel swarmed around the Normandy Dock. Engineers, soldiers, and curious onlookers gathered to assess the damage caused by the British raid. HMS Campbeltown, battered and scarred, sat lodged in the dock gates like a grim trophy of the previous night's chaos. The Germans were unaware that the ship's bow concealed a deadly secret. At precisely noon on March 28, 1942, Campbeltown's delayed action explosives detonated. The resulting blast was catastrophic, ripping through the dock gates and sending a massive shockwave across the port. Hundreds of German personnel were killed instantly, and the Normandy dry dock was rendered completely inoperable. The destruction was so thorough that the dock remained out of service for the rest of the war. The explosion was a strategic victory of immense proportions. With the Normandy dock destroyed, the Germans lost their only facility, capable of repairing their largest battleships on the Atlantic coast. This forced vessels such as the Tirpitz to remain in Norwegian fjords, effectively neutralising their threat to Allied convoys in the Atlantic. For the British, the destruction of the dock was a moment of triumph. Despite the heavy casualties and the capture of many Commandos, the raid achieved its primary objective. The ripple effects of Operation Chariot extended far beyond Saint-Nazaire, influencing German strategy and bolstering Allied morale during a critical phase of the war. In the aftermath, the bravery of the raiders was recognised through numerous awards. 5 Victoria Crosses were bestowed, alongside countless other honours. The men of Operation Chariot became symbols of courage and determination, their sacrifice remembered as one of the most daring actions of World War II. And with that, we conclude our exploration of the Saint-Nazaire raid. Operation Chariot, one of the most daring and consequential special operations of World War II. The courage and sacrifice of the men who participated in this incredible mission continues to inspire more than 8 decades later. If you enjoyed this episode of the Militia Historia podcast, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your support means so much to us. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and review, it would help other history enthusiasts discover our show. To stay updated on our latest content, make sure to follow Militia Historia on X, Instagram, and YouTube. We're constantly working on bringing you more fascinating stories from military history, so be sure to stay tuned for our upcoming episodes. Each one promises to delve into the extraordinary lives and events that have shaped the course of history. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.